All right, Steve, let's talk a little Alabama recruiting as the Tide had a five-star weekend in Tuscaloosa. We're going to start with number 2 ranked safety Gyra Edwards. What's the latest on him after spending the weekend at Alabama?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, colleague Chad Simmons and I did a best guess article on the recruitment of Gyra Edwards out of Baltimore St. Francis and where we thought he would end up at school. And I picked Georgia. He picked Oregon. It's been a fluid recruitment, but I think it's Alabama now coming out of this visit. He talked about he said the experience down here is outrageous. The people, the love, the family, it was everything you could ask for. Coach DeBoer is a great person, a great coach. He also has great people in the building that will develop you on and off the field. Love the Tide. I think Alabama is in pole position for Gyra Edwards. The question now is, can they land the number 2 and number 3 safeties in the country, Josh? Gyra Edwards, who was on campus this past weekend, and 2 weekends ago was Jet Washington, the number 3 safety per the On3 industry. There's some good buzz about Alabama for him, too. That was his third visit to Alabama. But Gyra Edwards been to Alabama a couple times this calendar year. They have skyrocketed in this recruitment. You still have Texas A&M, Auburn also in the mix, but I have Alabama as a favorite for Gyra Edwards.
Speaking of favorites, let's talk about five-star linebacker Xavier Griffin. When he decommitted from USC, it seemed like Alabama was the favorite. Now it seems like Alabama is one of the favorites. So he took an official visit to Alabama this weekend. How did it go?
Well, I think Alabama is still the program to beat for Xavier Griffin, but there's certainly some heavy competition out there when you're talking about Ohio State, Texas, and even Florida State and the relationships he has with the Seminoles coaching staff. But Alabama grew up a fan of the Crimson Tide, relationships with the coaching staff led by Christian Robinson, the way Alabama plans to use him schematically and his versatility in the second level, and then getting around guys like Quay Russaw and Justin Hill and talking to them about why they picked Alabama, like-minded individuals in the locker room. Family loves it. Grandfather works down the street from the campus. Again, proximity from home. Alabama's in a really good spot, but he decommitted from USC so he could go through his process, and he's going to take his visits. And Texas lurks, and Texas is going to treat him like a potential first-round draft pick, so compensation and all of that. Texas could make a major move in this recruitment. I would not be surprised if he ends up in the burnt orange. And then Florida State, they're in it more than people think. Then he had a fantastic visit to Ohio State where he talked about the brotherhood, the coaching staff, and certainly them coming off a national championship and the opportunities that they have on and off the field for their athletes. But I like where Alabama stands. It's a heavyweight battle, a Royal Rumble of sorts. There's 4 teams in the ring. They'll start getting tossed out a little bit left and right. I think Alabama has staying powers in that one, and that's where my on 3 RPM remains.
All right, weekend's over, Steve. Have you put any new predictions in for Alabama?
Yeah, I put one in for 4-star offensive lineman Samuel Utu. By the time this show goes live on the On3 Recruits channel, hit like and subscribe. He will be part of this Alabama class, choosing the Crimson Tide over Washington, USC, and many others. A punishing, high upside point of attack player with terrific wingspan, massive hands, just a ferocious player. He's someone that Alabama covets. I like where the Crimson Tide stand.
All right. Before we wrap up this Alabama segment, got to talk quarterback recruiting. They've had a pair of quarterbacks on campus recently. So, Steve, what's next for Alabama at the position?
Well, it was Jet Tamala 2 weekends ago, on 300 quarterback from Omaha that's committed to Iowa State. And then Matt Ponatowski was on campus this weekend, the Gatorade State Player of the Year in Ohio for football and baseball. He's going to play both on the next level. Jet Tamala, I think, is going to make his final decision before Matt Ponatowski makes his. Now, Tamala was back in Ames this past weekend around Matt Campbell and that coaching staff. Iowa State was hoping to get him to shut it down, but Jet Tamala told me on Sunday afternoon he was still thinking about it. I know he's had correspondence with Alabama since then. Alabama's trying to get him to take it slow. They want to bring him back for an official visit. I think if he goes back for an official visit, he ends up at Alabama, because I think at that point Iowa State's like, well, I see the writing on the wall. So we'll see what happens. Does he get back down to Alabama in the near future? And then Ponatowski had an awesome visit, talked about the symmetry between the baseball staffs and the football staffs and how that would go for him. Really enjoyed watching film with Ryan Grubb, watching his own film, getting critiques for his own game that he can work on. Had a great time around Kalen DeBoer's wife, family, really got to know him. He felt the great vibes at Alabama. He told me, so he's got his top 4. You got Alabama, You got Oregon, you got Kentucky, and you got Arkansas. And he was like, there's a 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. But Alabama's closer to the top of the 1A, 1B side of that. He's going to be at Oregon June 20th. He said he could maybe even get back to Alabama later on this summer when he plays in a baseball tournament down there. He's got a chance to hear his name called very high in the MLB draft, Josh. He told me from there it's just how much, is it life-changing money at that point, right? But he's going through his process right now, planning to play 2 sports in college, and he's very excited about that. And Alabama, he said, put on a great visit not only for him, but the other recruits on campus.